China's fobs can travel the world at a rapid hypersonic speed to eliminate everything. The United States and its cities are quite worried. Fractional orbital is abbreviated as fob. Mechanism of bombardment, a weapon that enters orbit and exits orbit when to attack targets most severely, even the most sophisticated missile, almost useless defense systems. This is not a flimsy, pointless project. Hello and welcome to KYC News, and please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. The United States military believes the fobs were made to be used in opposition to. They are not about to remain silent. It's about in this video, we'll clarify this. A hazardous arms race of punch for punch taking place between two of the biggest powerful countries' hypersonic keychains. The fobs is a more developed variation of isotope range ballistic missiles. IGMS has the important advantage of longer range, faster speeds, and actual inside the United States anxiety when launched. A fob would descend quickly. For as long as the Earth orbits the Sun, as long as necessary with its intended location in view, it deorbits up to 27 times faster than about 9 times quicker than the speed of sound than any jet currently in use. The fobs and space are pretty similar. Shuttles, but without the entire capsule. It possesses a nuclear warhead of astronauts. The payload encompassing the entire world and its scope. The fobs may attack the United States from anywhere. Arrival of the direction by at least 10 minutes more quickly than an international. The ballistic missile due of this unpredictable nature. The US would only a few minutes left before when the missile makes a turn. Observe it. Large crater on their ground. If it happens that the United States has the luxury of time to prepare their defense papers, state that we appreciate it's possible to use a glider on the keychains, circumvent American missile defenses, and still cause significant harm. Simply, the fob moves too quickly for these defensive technologies to monitor, intercept, or destroy. As cliché as it may sound, sci-fi, the fobs isn't new. The fact that China copied the weapon idea, nothing else but the king of northern Russia, the Soviet Union at the time, efforts devoted to removing the Americans using missile defense systems which Soviet IGMs were so powerful began to appear frail. These missiles had a known trajectory. Once the United States aimed its the use of defense systems that faced the north could withstand Soviet strikes with ease. Within reason. As a result, the Soviets created an unforeseen weapon that could either by attacking us from the north or by circling the globe to attack from a southern. They called it the fractional weapon. Thanks to its orbital bombardment system being able to enter a fractional orbit, however, it was never employed against the American Union, never even been placed in orbit. This is what we now know about China is limited. United States and Soviet Union in the 1960s were forbidden by the universal ban on the use of nuclear weapons. Nonetheless, the agreement wasn't the only one. The reason the Soviet fobs survived, the United States has canceled its methods for defending against nuclear bombs. Which countries did the Soviet flies target? Was made to be destroyed once more. Soviet IGMs were capable of significant harm to the US, and thereby the fobs lost their purpose. The Outer Space Treaty is no longer in effect, because nothing stops the leading countries from launching a nuclear missile into, as China has already proved, orbit so that everyone can see. Due to the economic climate, this demonstration became in popularity as they claimed that China had indeed tried an orbital hypersonic bombardment firearm. In August, China asserts that everything was a mistake, and they were in fact testing a particular type of spacecraft. However, given that China has been on their allegation of a weapons development frenzy didn't hold up very well. Hence the pressing query was, why hasn't China created this powerful weapon? A rate of devastation that even the United States was unable to maintain. Sadly, the solution isn't what you think it is. Significantly different from Moscow's more than to defeat the United States a century ago. Missile protection. It is the most sensible explanation, given the only kind of weapon the US uses is a fob. Has no foolproof safeguard against. Nevertheless, perhaps not for long, since if everything the United States is infamous for being the most effective at handling threats, how will America react? The US needs to make China more accountable. You placed your faith on nuclear deterrence and their fobs away. Making sincere inquiries gently would just put them at peril. Some humorous material. The US must demonstrate its ability to China fobs or cause equivalent harm to China has some futuristic weapons. Own nonetheless. Marco, a space situational specialist Longbroke, believes otherwise, that the U.S. should broaden its scope to include its installation of ballistic missile defenses, satellite blocking missiles. Many think this is mostly a defensive move and might not be the best course of action. Constructing a ready-to-use shield disintegrated performs poorly for the spirit of the average American. Some reports have already made this assertion to resemble the Sputnik crisis in some way. This was a generalized terror in the United States after the fall of the Soviet Union launching the first artificial spacecraft, the Sputnik 1 satellite. There are two strategic alternatives for the United States to persuade nearby nations to construct their own missile defense systems and defend the United States from nuclear before they reach their borders. Reasonable as it may seem, this strategy would inconveniently force the United States to breach defensive systems sponsored by the bank, who refuse to even sit on their land. Costly missile defense systems. The ground-based mid-course is set up. Alaska's defense system, for instance, had around $70 billion price tag. A potential missile defense installation at Fort New York's Drum had an estimated $3.6 billion in spending throughout the first 5 years by itself, and can combat 5 opponent missiles. However, as China continues to straddle the border between an orbital and non-orbital system, the Space Force is prepared to launch attacks, spend every money available to reign in China. It's long overdue for them. China offers other products besides the fobs, a satellite that can render unusable American spacecraft that the Space Force did not find entertaining enough. Additional satellites. China deployed a satellite in 2013 that is known termed Xian, and it differs from your typical friendly satellite in the neighborhood. It had large enough grappling hooks to pick up other satellites and remove them, which was amply established was orbit in an exam. China has verified that this was they simply built it for their satellite research objectives. It was amusing given the topic of weaponry are often investigated first. Development. Furthermore, Russia has 3 attack their own powerful satellites. The initial kamikaze nickname was founded in 2014. It achieved amazing capacity to move at high speeds that, if equipped with projectile weaponry, it should resemble a fighter jet in space. Consider a fighter satellite, however, it lacked a projectile. The same as its cousins. A new satellite was launched by Russia in that had a smaller satellite. In 2017, it was able to fire projectiles, the nesting doll, which was their third entry, which in 2019 united the skills of the two most recent launches, therefore it able to move at any speed and shoot projectiles, resulting in Russia's deployed a fighter satellite in essence toward space, and none of this space-based weaponry was used in reality. The U.S. space went unnoticed force was born in Russia in the same year as a combat spacecraft launched into orbit. So far, they've maintained a lot of their low-key activities, yet it's simple to realizing what they're working on big. Yet the Space Force isn't the only thing that's working. Involves a group effort from the whole U.S. military, including the Air Force's new 6th-generation fighters of the generation to Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Boeing developing strong lasers that could split the satellite in two, then collapse mid-flight missiles. China's fobs may not be authentic, ultimately unstoppable, and when the fobs are no longer visible, the United States is capable of expressing itself like they have in other departments. The world's most powerful air force, the biggest aircraft carriers in the world history. China must therefore think carefully on their strategy for advanced nuclear gun control, as the topic of a dialogue at a table probably be as beneficial to them other countries in the world. After all, that is the very purpose of nuclear deterrence. Demonstrating this, everyone would have something to say. Worry if any nuclear missiles are launched recklessly fly a foreign aircraft as its intended target. A further issue worth addressing is the immediately below this video. Click the like button. You'll support this channel by doing it. If you want to grow on the YouTube algorithm, you're intrigued by everything here. Thank you for subscribing to the It's All We Ever Talk About is the channel. Something I don't know about you. The situation with China and the resemblances to Russian operations. Could there be an alliance between the two countries? Please share your thoughts with me in the comment in the space provided below, and thank you for watching.